So Kazim, let's quickly add in terms of what you've submitted. I'll give you a quick feedback on the the assignment, which is the 3.24 marketing principles and techniques. I know this is rough, but what I would still suggest you do is implement is the foundations, for you to be able to look at studying further and go to the university. There's a bit of a formatting that you have to be careful about when you look at submitting the assignment. So very briefly, some of these things are very basic, but just kind of recapping them as I'm doing them in front of you. So, you'll get a hang of it. So first things first, what we look at is a bit of formatting. I know you've started off with an introduction, which is fine. Task 1, you're following the assignment brief, which is okay. So you're writing the task down very clearly. That's good practice. And for some of the tasks wherein it is written merit and distinction, what you have to do is basically put the extension activity down. So here it says in task 1, for merit, it'll say explain why different roles are used to market products and services, and that is what you need to basically put in. So here, instead of writing merit, I would kind of replace it by this, the task. And the tutor or the assessor is basically supposed to identify that, this is what you're actually attempting. So I'm just going to replace this by the tasks here, so that we know that these are the tasks that you're doing. And then task 2, obviously looking at market research, which is fine. And then followed by, when you say distinction, not all the activities will typically have a merit or a distinction, but here the distinction task, which is given, primarily talks about evaluation. So what I will look at is, explain this in a minute. Task 3 is e-marketing. And then for merit, what you have to do is assess that task which is being asked for. Right heading, just the headline as a heading, so that the task is identifiable. And for distinction, it is evaluate. And what we do is we'll replace this with evaluate here. And then apart from that, we start with task 4, heading. And again, merit is what we do is we pick up those market analysis. On the side, I hope to agree with the company and we will use appropriate funds. So that's the one that you have to pick up. So what I'll do is basically turn this into a heading, and the distinction would be just copy and paste. So basically, this is giving it a bit of a table of content in terms of the assignment, and it makes it clearly distinguished, distinguishable from a point of view of and what tasks you've covered, and have you covered the entire tasks and things like that. So I know you've not had references at the moment. That's working document. So we put this like this, and then quickly what I'll do is create the table of contents. Right. So basically, as an assessor, as a tutor, when I look at your work, what I can do is, have a look at your assignment and see that, you pretty much attempted everything which has been given in the assignment brief. And we know that we are looking at assessing it for, the full grade, for the highest grade of the assignment. So writing the task down as the tasks are given is important because of 2 reasons. First is, most of these tasks, here, basically talk about a command verb. So it says, tell them about marketing. So basically the task is describe the diverse activities. And this, when you look at, would be the full task that you're writing here. So task 1, what is marketing? And I could probably write this underneath. So here the word, describe is important, is because describe is what is a command verb. Now, this word particularly has a meaning. We need to know the meanings of these command verbs. And the describe command verb basically says you need to provide a detailed explanation as to how and why, how and why. So in this case, you're explaining the how and why of marketing. So typically, if this word is omitted, then what tends to happen is that the tutor is not able to understand and assess your work correctly. So from your point of view, you need to understand the meaning of the word command, meaning of the action word or command word. And this typically tends to happen when you put the exact task down from the assignment brief into the assignment. So in terms of the command verbs, this is a small handout that we did, and I think this is up on Moodle. I can also email this to you, and this is where I look at the definitions when I'm looking at assessing the work that you have. So describe here is quite clear, is that it talks about how and why of marketing. So if I delete this word, you do not know what exactly is being asked for. The diverse activities carried out in marketing departments and other businesses. It becomes a sentence. You don't know what is being asked of you to be able to do in this task. And then it says provide examples to help your colleagues understand the full range of activities they could undertake to promote the business. So in this case, if you have to do the task, you have to look at command verb, which is describe. So here, what you're starting off with is, which is what is marketing, and you've defined some of the things, which marketing is supposed to do. So, like you mentioned, one of the main objectives of being a marketer is to persuade customers to buy an item over somebody else's. Now, somewhere in the middle, you would have started off, it's an important tool for the organization, and this is a definition of marketing. So, if I have to look at slightly giving you some guidance on this in terms of what you need to look at, would be to do these things in order to achieve or do the significant justice in terms of so marketing definition. It is say by 2-3 people like Kotler. We could use a definition of by Kotler, which is an academic definition. We could use something like the American Marketing Association. In the UK, we look at Qualifi Ltd and Marketing. So if you include the definition of what is marketing by 3 of these, or at least 2 of these, then that would have at least addressed that question which talks about what is marketing. Now you have described it maybe in your own words, and that is also fine. But here, because it described word is asking you to provide a detailed explanation, what you'll have to do is basically look at doing a definition from 1 or 2 academic or reliable sources to meet the criteria. And that would be reliable sources is maybe a chartered organization, maybe an academic author, and that would be where you use probably say Philip Kotler, he's called the marketing guru. So mostly the definition of Philip Kotler's marketing definition could be used. And the other is you could use an organization like Chartered Institute of Marketing, which is considered a de facto marketing standard in most of the activities as far as you concerned. And that would cover the first part, which is what is marketing. Then you're looking at describing the activities of activities carried out in the marketing department. So here you're probably alluded to the fact that these are various things which the marketing department does, things like strategy, research, developing products, all that is absolutely fine. So this bit that you explained, which is to do with describing the activities in a bit more detail, is absolutely fine. And then you've gone on to decide, talk about the marketing mix, the 4 Ps and 7 Ps, which is also fine, and that would cover the full range of activities. So in order to achieve this task, my feedback to you would be you need to include the definition of marketing by the author or authors below, and that would kind of cover up this particular task. So I can see that you've explained the marketing mix, which talks about the various activities, the full range of activities which the marketing department carries out. Now, the other key thing which you have to look at in this task is they are asking you to talk about these activities for a particular business. And that, when we look at the assignment brief, is actually given to you in a bit of context of the assignment brief here. That you've just finished a course, you're going to be working on a small family-run business. So as long as you're able to relate this to a small family business or any other business, I know you've written as here, but that's more related to marketing. But if you are able to relate the 4 marketing mix, 4 Ps or 7 Ps of the marketing mix to the family business or a business in general, that would basically cover up this task nicely. So if I have to give you another tip, basically a bit of a guidance, that would be that any task that you cover, first try and cover theory. And theory would mean, when I say theory, you're looking at things like definition, models, or, conceptual models, essentially, as we call it, like the matrix, for example, BCG, Ansoff matrix, the 7 Ps in this case. That is all covered in the theory. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine, sir.
And then once you've covered the theory, what you need to do is you need to show application. And then towards the end, what we need to show is practice. Now, these are the 3 components of any task, any assignment that you will do. And these follow something which is on the order of the command verb. Now, if you have the basic words, which is words like explain, describe, you have words like, for example, say clarify, define, discuss. These words are basic words, right? When I say basic words, means these are words wherein your task answer has to be very descriptive. Then there are words which will be classified into merit category, and these words will be compare, assess, it will be analyze. These will include words like critically, I would not put critically there, but demonstrate, interpret. These words will essentially come across, in merit category tasks. Now, when you start an assignment, you'll be able to see when you see the action verbs or command verbs, you'll always see the task always start with these words first. Then in the subsequent task, you will see that the words complexity increases and they go into, higher order command verbs or merit. And then towards the end, in the assignment, when you see the 254, it will talk about words which will mean, say, critically analyze. So there'll be critical evaluation required for your analysis. That means they want to see how do you form a judgment. So you have to put a lot of arguments in, put some lot of theory and different viewpoints in, advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons, your own arguments, and then you have to kind of bring it to a conclusion. And that is what would mean you're doing your own analysis. You're giving your own viewpoint on that task which has been asked by using an example or by using by elaborating the theoretical framework into an example. So when we talk about 7 Ps, you talked about price, place, promotion, product, but then you would have taken and related a family business to it, saying that, okay, I have a furniture business in the family, and the furniture business, the places, the shop, the prices, the price of different products. Promotion, we do a lot of promotions in the weekends and the months, Easter promotion, and then you look at the other P, which is talking about the product itself, the different type of furniture products that you're selling. So if you are able to expand that, that is showing critical analysis. The other word that you will commonly see will be evaluate. And then in some cases, what you will also see, word which we come across as contrast and compare. That means first they will ask you to put the things into perspective. And once you've, kind of gathered together all the valid facts like advantages, disadvantages, similarities, dissimilarities, then you compare them and you put your own perspective in terms of, which one actually stands out. So that will be something which is to do with the fact that it will talk about, evaluate. There will be also sometimes you will see, it will say justify. And it will also say illustrate. These words will or can come into both merit as well as distinction category. Because when they ask you to justify, they will ask you to say, okay, why is this particular model like that? So justification could be that, for promotions in the furniture store, you always look at doing flyers. But why do you always look at doing flyers? Why not maybe a website promotion, or why not? So they're asking you to justify. So you have to think innovatively to look at coming up with reasons of why this promotion works for you. It could be background research. It could be that the flyer has a bit more longevity. You have something available with the consumer in terms of, printed collateral to be able to relate. There's a discount voucher which you are sending across in the printed flyer, and that is your justifying why you're looking at a print promotion as against a web promotion or a TV promotion. And sometimes you have to illustrate. That means you'll be asked to make a presentation or provide a documentation or write a letter or create a format which will ask you to show what knowledge you've gained. And these words will actually be described in these three different categories: pass, merit, and distinction. So when you look at this particular task, I think in some cases you have to relate it to a particular business. So you have spoken about the business, but you're talking generically. You're not relating it to the business which actually is highlighted in the sign leaf, which is a family-run business. It could be any business, or you pick up a business of your choice, and you could justify it by saying that, okay, this is how the 4 Ps would be applied to this particular task. Is that okay? But because this is the first task and kind of sets the tone for the assignment, as long as you've covered the various aspects of what is marketing, what are the activities which is carried out in marketing, various departments, and you've alluded to the example of ASDA, you are almost a borderline pass here. I'm not convinced, but what I'm doing is a reading your assignment, and as I get along, see where your thought process is flowing, I might get more convinced. But for now, I'm not going to be too fussed about it, and I'm saying, okay, you're meeting the criteria. That is fine, as long as you add 1 or 2 definitions. Marketing by Philip Kotler and CIM, that would be task 1. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Now, when we go to merit, now in merit, it is saying explain why different tools are used to market products and services. Now here is where you will, one is you look at what are the different tools. So sometimes when I have to even look at it, what we do is we look at the indicative spec. So here when it's talking about different tools, we are looking at different marketing tools which will help you sell different products and services. So different marketing tools, as you mentioned, and you've alluded to the fact you've used digital media in particular, and you've used public relations. So you're covering the right set of things in the assignment, but because it says explain why. Now, explain is a word. If you see the definition of the explain as a word, it says clarify a topic. And where do I see this? So if you see explain here, it says clarify a topic by giving detailed account as to why and how it occurs. Why is it useful in this particular context? So here the context is what is important. You need to follow through in the assignment brief. So if you pick up a business like ASDA or a family business, whatever it is, you have to follow it through by always showing application in every task that you're doing. You're relating it basically to that context. Is that okay? So here I would say, like I was explaining to you earlier, like it's a furniture business, and why do I do print promotion as against digital promotion, is because the print flyer has a longer shelf life. We are able to send out offers to people to their doorstep. The flyer, because of its longevity, also allows the person to keep this as a reference leaflet for future. And because the product that you're selling is costing hundreds of pounds, or people buy furniture once in 10 years, 5 years, things like that, you need to have a premium way to be able to promote the products and service or sell the furniture. And in this case, you have decided that the promotion P is very important, because you need to be able to provide something which primarily has shelf life and some tangible value when the customer receives it. You could have looked at digital technology, which is fine as well. So in this case, it is the current trend. Most of it is it's cheaper to promote and advertise your products through social media. You can actually run a multiple number of promotions. You could explain maybe a simple thing here. I would probably look at website, for example. So you would have upgraded your website, keeping in mind the 4 Ps, because a lot of customers do a lot of shopping now, or window shopping now through the website mode. They can compare, they can look at flexible pricing. The pricings could be offered in terms of discounts, and you could target different products on different through the website to different customers with different promotions on it. And that is why you would kind of look at using the tool of digital media communication to explain this particular task. So the task explanation that you've done is okay, but I do feel that you need to detail it out slightly more. So here the feedback would be that there are 2 things that you have to do to meet it in terms of merit. One is you have to detail it out by picking up one service and relating it to a business, which is nothing but example. And this is what we are showing as an application, because the past task talked about covering it theoretically. The merit will ask you to do something called, or ask you to show its application. and the distinction will ask you to show a practice. Follow this? So this is how typically the flow is. In theory, you've covered the repetition 7 Ps. In application, you're relating it to why you're choosing one of the medium, and you're talking about it in a bit more detail. And then in practice, you're in terms of distinction, you're going to be looking at showing how it will actually work in real time with an example. In most cases, this is the case, most cases. But because this is the first task, what they've done is they've asked you to further build on to the theory in this. And I think what I would suggest is you detail it out and relate your business to achieve merit. And in this case of distinction task which has been put in, they've asked you to analyze. And if I look at the meaning of the word analyze, it talks about, you're breaking the issue various components. So here it talks about marketing mix. So what one you do is they're asking you to talk about the 4 or the 7 Ps essentially, and that is breaking up this particular key bit requirement of marketing mix into various components: price, place, promotion, product, packaging, physical evidence or presence is basically breaking it up. And then what you're doing is you're writing 20 words against each of them by relating it to the business. So I think in this example, what I would suggest you to do is in the draft, working draft, is basically pick a business or an organization to include as an example for the coverage of the task.
Right.
Do you follow? So, for example, if you're looking at furniture business, you look at as an organization, what you could do is you could analyze the 4 Ps for them. You get some ideas if you want. You can get some ideas from looking at how the application of 4 Ps can be done. And if I show you something, give me 1 second. Let me show you the 7 Ps, how it can be applied to ASDA test scores. I've got 1 or 2 things which I'll show you. 1 second. Just quickly share it to you. Give me 1 second.
Right, take your time.
So in this case, just to show, this is, say, for example, another student's work. And we talked about this, a slightly different unit, where he talked about coherent marketing mix for a new product. So here, what he's doing is he has to pick up a brand to be able to talk about, the 4 P, the 7 Ps. So what he's done is define product for essential, components or idea showcasing, and he's talked about the 4 and then expanded to the 7 Ps. So people, physical evidence, and process. Can you see?
Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
This is what you'll have to do when you look at analysis here. So what you're doing is you're basically breaking the marketing mix into the individual components, and you're talking and looking at it in a bit more depth by showing some application and how it is relevant to, the family business, which is the context given of the assignment brief here. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, typically, this is not a mandatory requirement, but because most of the things that we do here are assessment based, what tends to happen is if you get past tasks, essentially, we expect normally to see 50 to 70 words minimum, because that is what is required academically to justify, you achieving a pass. For merit, I would expect 100 to 150 words, and for distinction, because you're covering theory, practice, and application, you're writing anywhere between 150 to 200 words.
Right.
So I'll give you, we'll discuss and go forward in this, and I'll put this out to you why that becomes important. Because if I have to talk about here the analysis, I have to talk about the 7 Ps. So even if I write 10 to 15 words, for each of the P, you're looking at getting at least 85 to 100 words just for the 7 Ps, which is marketing mix. And then when you're relating it to a business, you have to relate it by explaining that, and that would require at least 30 or 50 words for you to relate it to the business. So that is how, this is a minimum word limit that you'll have to meet unless you're excellently doing well in terms of articulation of using English, and then you're able to explain exactly what has been asked for. in a few sentences by referencing it.
Right.
Right. The reason why we put the things in our own words is because you're explaining, bringing experience, you've read something and you're trying to bring it here into your work. But sometimes when you become very good in academic writing, what you'll be able to do is pick out the exact definitions from the books or the journals or, the presentations. You'll put those definitions and you'll explain that in 20 to 30 words. And for that, your academic referencing has to be absolutely perfect. So the more referencing you have, that means you've done research from more books, and what you're doing is you're not writing or beating around the bush, but you're picking up something which has been proven in a study, and that as a quote, you pick it up, reference it, and then explain that quote, and that does the task.
Right. Okay.
The reason why I suggest you to pick up, you're perfectly okay, and you've written your definition of marketing, which is fine. When I go through it, I can understand where you're coming from. But in order to convince me and the task that this is what is required, that is why I asked you to pick up 2 reliable sources from which the definition of marketing is taken as a de facto standard. The moment you put this, that means you understood marketing.
Right.
I might have our own definition of marketing. You might have your own definition. We might paraphrase it, rephrase it, but this can only be done, and you require to write maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs to explain that point. But the moment you pick up something from a very reliable, justifiable, scientific source, you have done it by just referencing it and putting it in the work to explain that. What is marketing? Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Good stuff. So let's go to the, so in terms of the distinction task which has been given here, what I would suggest is that you need to add maybe just the organization here. And if you have to structure it well, the thing that I would suggest is use the 7 Ps. So explain the marketing, which is 7 Ps, and relate them to a business. In the introduction that you've done, you've kind of summarized, the business that you've taken. I've taken the employment TTS, and this is. But what you have done is absolutely fine. You have to just reference TTS in the second part, of the task here to relate to their products and service. Sometimes what happens is you do see that you pick up a business or an example which does not have those products and services, so it becomes difficult for you to justify. So here you have to be a bit smart and intelligent to pick up an example from a company's perspective, which will allow you to, straight away recognize and, pick up some of the products and services it does, and it kind of fits by default into the things that you're going to cover. So if I pick up Tesco, for example, or if I pick up ATHE, for example, I know they have all the 7 Ps. They have a physical presence, they have a process in place, they have product prices, lots of products, lots of prices, lots of people in the business, and they do lots of promotion. So it becomes very easy for you to articulate that example and show the application in practice. Are you with me?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So you could, it's not necessary that you need to pick up the thing which has been given in the assignment. You could actually look at taking your example, and that could be said in the assignment brief here. So in this case, like you said, for the purpose of the report, I am looking at taking the example of TTS, which is a family-run business, started it, and you're explaining that, which is absolutely fine. But sometimes you'll struggle if you feel TTS does not have, a large physical presence, or they don't do a lot of marketing, then you'll be struggling to get hold of examples to quote in the assignment. So here the choice of organization will become important, but as long as you're able to justify it, that's absolutely, there's no issue with that. Okay. Now we go to task 2, and in task 2, what we're looking at is, it says explain the term aim and explain the aim of research and market analysis. So that is actually the task which they have asked you to do. So here in this case, definition would be getting into the basic definitions of what is market research. And market research is a set of activities which are, now again, you could pick up definitions, from standard definitions from authors, and that is what you could put here, and that would make it easier for you to justify what is market research. And that's it. You've done the definition, and that's done. And then you're explaining the aims of market research. What are the aims? You want some aims of market research is you want to look at couple of things. So for example, most of the companies, when they look at doing a lot of research, is they want to gather data from customers, their preferences, you look at information about your competition, market. You look at basically doing analysis. So as they've already given away in this task, explain the aims of research and market analysis. So in market analysis, you have to apply one of the tools. For example, you could pick up a basic tool like Pestle. You could pick up a tool like SWOT. You could pick up a tool like ANSOF matrix. And this is what needs to be actually brought across to show that you have a good understanding of how you do analysis. Like taken TTS as a business, and TTS as a business is, in selling Android tablets and various other products in their own brand name. So here, what is the requirement for them to be able to do research? They want to look at, who are the other competitors who are offering similar products with white label tablets, which are Android tablets. What are the price points? What is the segment to which they basically market this tablet? And how many of them are being sold in terms of volume? And then the aim of doing the research, you could form, this is analysis. They want to get this information. So basically to do a research, what they want to do is they will look at constituting a research to an agency which will do this study on their behalf. And the aim of that research is to find out the market or the growth potential of, white labeled Android tablets in the Manchester area. And that will help you in doing business planning. So research is done by companies to basically look at business planning, looking at setting up objectives, to find out about competition or their competitors. They will also do research to find out customer preferences, so they are able to bring products to market which customers would want and value and will, buy those products and services. And the tool in terms of doing analysis would be picking up at least one or two tools, which will allow you to kind of segment the market. So if you're looking at studying the business, TTS business, and how it fares with other competitors, you could pick up Pestle. So is there any political impact which is happening? You could explain Brexit slightly. You could talk about economic factors, pound inflation rate, the exchange rate going up and down. Could be, looking at economic. Then you look at basically social, technological, you could explain that. If not, then you could look at doing something which is on a, on a ANSOF or a BCG matrix. And that would help you do market analysis. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
So basically here the task would be to try and look at what are the tools which you use to do market analysis. And if you have to look at the tools which are required for doing market analysis, those tools, have to be spoken about specifically with regards to, doing analysis. And one of the very basic tools that we use is Pestle, as I mentioned to you. And if sometimes you struggle to find what the tools are being asked about, or what is it referring to, then because this is task 2, what we look at is you can go back and look at a basic set of tools given here. So for market analysis, we could look at SWOT. Then there is micro and macro. Micro is internal, macro is external to the organization for TTS. You could do a SWOT analysis to see what are the strengths, weaknesses, for this company as against competitors. You could do something like Pestle, which I mentioned. And in some cases, when you do competitor analysis, you have to dig into tools like the Boston Consulting Group, BCG matrix, or the ANSOF matrix. Is that okay?
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
So in order to achieve this particular task, you have done the definitive research, which is fine. You've talked about various research methods, which looking at, focus group, etc. So here, the various methods you are kind of referring to is primary research, secondary research, tertiary research, and within primary research, you do things like, surveys, focus groups, and experiments because you are collecting data firsthand. And surveys and all these will fall into primary research. So if I had to do a bit of giving you an idea in terms of types of research, what I would do is basically include a small, it will basically talk about various research methodologies, and I would reference this picture. So you do this, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
You do a bit of a, you can bring something like this is also a quite detailed picture of research, but maybe bring in something which talks about the various types of research in a simpler, simplistic manner, like something like this. Types of research like basic research, applied research, and this is then very clear that okay, we were looking at basic research. applied research, quantitative. There are different types: primary, secondary. Then within that you have qualitative, quantitative, and that itself is a definition of the types of research which the organization would typically undertake. Is that okay?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and then the picture could be referenced by clearly saying, this is a figure 1, and then this is saying types of research, and then you say source, and which website we picked it up from. So it is across, say, from a website. So here what you do is you can put this website down, which is talking about, say, somebody who's, this is types of research, somebody who's actually done a blog on research, and you can put this down. Onlycrown.com. That's it. Okay. And then in terms of analysis, what you're looking at is, because you've taken an organization like TTS, that analysis has to come here. So analysis tool is something that you'll have to put in. So here, for marketing analysis, I would suggest that you use tools export or custom to cover the organization taken as an example. Okay, so yours is TTS, or you could pick up as a, or you could pick up anything like Tesco. It might be easier to explain, this analysis as a tool of what kind of research Tesco does. So Tesco has what you call the club card data, and the reason why they keep collecting this data is they want to research the customer buying habits, and you can clearly explain that in 30 words. You don't need to kind of search for it, or kind of work hard for it, because they have the club card data, which allows them to do analysis in terms of understanding customer buying preferences, how many times you shop in a week, what do you shop for normally, what are the main items in your list, and then they kind of helps Tesco tailor promotions and discount coupons or vouchers to its customers, and this is where they use research from the club card data to kind of position and provide very useful campaigns or promotions to their customers shopping at the store.
Right.
Is that okay? So
Yeah.
I think sometimes you have to look at the example. For me, I will always explain to learners is that example, picking up a company or an example with the context of the assignment that you're doing is very important, because sometimes the example has lots of things in it for you to be able to extrapolate or kind of elaborate and interpret those things required when you're doing that work. Okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good stuff. So let me see what has happened is something is active. So copy of sorry. I think it's got hung up as a document. Give me 1 second. Seems to be working okay. I hope it recovers. That's fine. I'll send you some feedback on this in any case, but just going on quickly looking at the other tasks. So I think Have you understood what I'm trying to, where I'm trying to go, and obviously, why these are things which are important at this stage for you to be able to develop a bit of foundation on this.
Yeah, of
And
course.
this assignment in particular, is you can do it creatively. There is no, I would say, end to, how this assignment can be done. I could probably approach this assignment in 10 different ways.
All right, right, right.
You can basically look at doing this quite creatively in terms of just putting the task and other things together.
Right.
So let's look at the assignment brief again. So just very briefly, when did that up to you? So that's fine. So basically, you're looking at adding some bits, expanding so far. What you're covering in terms of the basic tasks is pretty much okay. I would say a big comment here. You could include a picture to show the types of research, do the definition of market research, pick an organization to show the reasons why MR is done, elaborate that to show the analysis. Suggest an example like Tesco. I could pick up Tesco, I could pick up Asda, I could pick up Waitrose, Sainsbury, but you know that which organizations actually collect data. So it is actually Sainsbury's and Tesco's, because they have the Nectar card, and these guys, they use their own Tesco Club card. And that is where it will become slightly easier for you to be able to explain why they do market research. Is that okay?
Right.
Some of the things that you'll have to be careful about is sometimes at level 3 we pick up, like numerous. So here, if I track change, spellings, sometimes you'll have to just do a spell check in terms of the sign. Now, what to going to, so here is type task 2. That was that. So it basically talked about the market research and analysis. That was your task that we were looking at. Writing the task down. And then in terms of the context that you're in is fine. I think all you have to do is relate it to, the organization. The distinction task is asking you to evaluate. Now, as you know, the definition of word evaluate, let's look at the word. So it says evaluate is, give your verdict list of the statements that you've come so far in the merit and the past tasks. So the merit and past tasks for this task is basically talking about the aims of research and market analysis. So you have to elaborate that task to cover some market research methods and show it in practice, essentially.
Right,
here,
right.
what I do is I would need to say, if I've taken an example of Tesco, I would actually need to show how MR is done. So here, basically, we are asking you to look at the example of the Tesco Club card.
Okay.
And this is what you have to explain. So basically, they are collecting data in Tesco Club card, and that is primary, data. Because the moment you take the stuff your till and you scan your card, all that data is captured into it, and that's primary research. They are not talking about the fact that, okay, I heard that you bought, 5 bags of, say for example, chocolates, or 2, breads and things like that from the Tesco store. Because you're paying for it through your debit card, and it's being scanned in terms of your club card, you're getting points for it. That data being collected is collected at the source, and that is why it's primary data. Is that okay?
Right.
So basically here they're asking me to elaborate, basically talk about a research method. Now, whether you talk primary, secondary, qualitative, quantitative, you have to pick up a method, talk about it, but talk about it for a product or a service.
Right.
Okay. So here, what Tesco collects is quantitative data about its customers. Because what they're collecting is, the prices you're buying, the items you're buying, how many your time you're buying. It's quantitative. It's all about quantity. What you're buying, how much of your the basket is or your shopping trolley is worth, and those things that are being collected. So it's collection of primary data, but it's primarily quantitative. And once they look at that quantitative data, they come to some conclusions. So it is Tesco collects both quantitative and qualitative data. Why it is qualitative?
Right.
Because when you look at data, which is the receipt that you get, the till receipt, that to you is just the name of the product and some price next to it, right? But
Yes.
if that data is then analyzed by somebody in the background who's doing CRM, he then sees not just that weekly shop that you've done, but 10 weeks of weekly shop in the past or 3 years of weekly shop in the past. And what they try and do then is from that data, they triangulate what products you're buying on every weekly shop that you come into. So is it bread, eggs, some groceries, some vegetables? Is that something that you buy every time when you go to Tesco? So which they are doing is they are converting that raw data by doing some analysis into qualitative data. That means something which is quantifiable and something which is important. So they know when they send you vouchers, they have to send you vouchers for, grocery products like, fruit and veg or, milk and eggs, because that is something that you buy by default without a default every time you go to Tesco. And that analysis that they've done on that study of 10 years of data or 10 weeks of shopping data, whatever you explain, is something which is quality. That means that is coming to a conclusion that this is something he or she always buys when he goes to Tesco. And that is why it is qualitative data.
Right.
So what you've done is you process the raw data into something which is coming out as meaningful conclusion, and that is nothing but qualitative research. Okay?
Yeah.
So that is to be explained to achieve this task. Are you with me on this?
Yeah, of course.
One type of research used by a company to sell a product or service. For example, Tesco card, and here the company is collecting the primary data which is used to is used for decision making.
Charging completed.
Sending out vouchers, they're called card vouchers to its loyal customers. You could also pick this point of loyalty. Sometimes customers end up getting a lot of points, and this is also coming in researches because if they shop for more in terms of their weekly shop, is it beyond £40, £70, £100? You could just allude to that example by saying that, okay, if you buy £40, they give you £5 off. If they buy £70, they get £7 off. If they buy £100, they get 5p off on the petrol, but also get £10 off their weekly shop.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So if I do a quick search on club card data, and then basically, if I do a quick, the idea is putting in some sort of a snapshot image to explain all this, because obviously what I'm not going to do is write an essay or a theory, but I would probably have something which basically shows that, it is related to the club card data. What is cool about the data, and then you can reference it appropriately. There you go.
Right.
You see that?
Yeah.
Nice. I don't think you just did that class here. So you have to come in and collect your diploma, which you didn't collect the last time. So you can come in and collect it anytime when you want to come. You can come today as well. Okay, nice. Till about 6:30. Okay. No worries, thanks. Sorry about that, Kasim. So basically looking at that particular bit, it explains that, you're taking the aid of some pictures, some graphs, rather than talking everything in words, you're basically using some of these images and pictures to put this across.
Right. Right.
Okay. Let's go to task 3. So as a working document, I think you've done, you've done okay, you've not bad. And all you need to explain some bits of it in the, elaborate has to be done, and example has to be put into context so far from what I can see. So let's look at task 3. So here, just saving this as well for it. Yes. In this task, we are talking about e-marketing. Again, I think because this assignment has a bit of creativity that you can use, different things. So maybe a screenshot of an email, or maybe some sort of social media, what do you call, say, when you go to Pinterest, you get a lot of these pictures which you can put across, which kind of summarize the whole concept in a graph or a, kind of a thing, bar chart kind of a thing. So you can use that. So e-marketing, the task that is asking you to do is, when you look at e-marketing, I might not get an idea in terms of what we're talking about. So I will probably put this into assignment. It talks about describing method used by e-market products by a company to market its products and services. So you've taken the example of email marketing, which is absolutely fine. You've referred to, Facebook and Instagram, which is also okay. And you've taken the example of Samsung's Galaxy Note example, which is perfectly fine. So I think in terms of this task, my only suggestion would be, what we're looking at is describe the methods with an S. So I know you've talked about email marketing and you've talked about social media. There might be a slight bit of more elaboration required just to say here, if I start, and this is something which I'm taking up from because I know. So I would say the multinational organizations are increasingly using social media and e-marketing as a channel to sell and reach, to sell their products and services to consumers. So here basically when you talk about the word describe, what is asking you to do is describe the process. You have to be slightly more detailed. So this is because it is coming across from Proctor. I will reference it here. 2014 definition in this page, I think 334. But I will reference this, and what I'll do is I'll put this across by saying, further adding it is that there. So now because we are writing facts, and these are already published in the book, I'm not writing it from my side. That is why I need to basically, reference this. So here, the next fact that I'm going to write is the spend, the marketing budgets for these companies has for the first time overtaken the spend on traditional advertising medias like print and radio. And you can put a figure here which is coming in from one of the websites which talks about the spend the companies are doing on basically internet marketing, e-marketing, whatever. So the total total budget and monies being spent by companies worldwide has reached $462 billion in the year 2016-17. This is also coming across from, a website called eMarketer.
Right, right.
So this was the estimate of the spend the companies are doing, on internet marketing. So what you're doing is you're setting a bit of a background from your point of view to explain the steps of e-marketing. And in this now, so then what we do is, in order to explain the various methods, first is what you could do is the various methods you could explain here. Various methods of e-marketing. Are. So here it could be, say, for example, email marketing, e-commerce. It could be, say, for example, social media marketing. You can list out all these. In order to cover this task, what you're doing, you're focusing only on two because it talks about plural methods. So you need to explain at least two. So in order to explain various methods, I would cover email marketing and social media marketing. Is that okay? So then what you've written from there on is absolutely fine. But what you've done is you've nicely kind of set the background for explaining this whole task, which is task 3, because it is going to ask you to cover some 4, 5, 6 different activities.
Right.
Is that okay? And then that
fine.
bit is fine. I would say just come to one example. You could pick up just Facebook promotion or anything like you're doing for Samsung Galaxy Note tab, and that covers people, and that is fine. Now, when it comes to the next task, which is talking about assess the benefits of e-marketing, I would primarily, when you look at the word assess, it says that you need to look at the pros and cons, or you look at advantages and disadvantages. So here you have to do an assessment at the end of it, that what is going to be beneficial and is it really beneficial. So are the benefits of e-marketing compared to traditional marketing methods of print advertising, radio, TV outweighing, and is it tilting towards e-marketing? So you covered some bits of it, but obviously there is needing to be some analysis. So here, what I would suggest is you insert a clear table. Basically, it will be clearer for you if you insert a table here. And what you tend to do is you compare these two techniques. So here you could write description. Here you could say e-marketing, and here you could say traditional routes of marketing.
Right.
Traditional techniques of marketing.
Right, right.
And then you cover some of these here. Why is it? Why do you think there are benefits of e-marketing? So basically, the benefits of e-marketing would be there will be disadvantages of traditional marketing.
Right,
so if you do benefits of e-marketing over traditional marketing, you're looking at primarily talking about various things, which could be things like e-marketing allows you to look at dynamic pricing, 24/7 availability. What is the advantage of e-marketing? 24/7 availability. You can shop anytime. You can do dynamic pricing. Pricing in different locations. For example, UK would be different, Ireland would be different, depending on the the income and the GDP and the income levels of the consumers in that country. You have the option of comparison. You can go on sites. These are advantages of e-marketing, but at the same time, you're listing out some of the disadvantages of traditional marketing, and that would help you, differentiate, and using a table will help you cover the task. Is that okay?
Right. Yeah, that's fine.
Do you agree with me? You in terms of the idea is you're doing the task, you want to make it, as it should be something which can be clearly recognizable, and easy to look at. So here the description would be availability, for example. In terms of flexibility in pricing.
Right.
You could talk about things like, you could also look at, comparison. You could look at things like return on investment, ROI as we call it. So in order to reach out to consumers, it's easier to do e-marketing because it costs less as compared to traditional mediums. If Samsung Galaxy has to advertise on TV and run a campaign, they run it in millions of dollars or pounds. But if they have to do a e-marketing campaign, they can send it out, at a fraction of a cost required to that, and that would cover that task.
Right, right.
Okay. Now the distinction task, it talks about evaluating the measures companies need to take to measure their online image, now manage their online image. Now, just to get an idea how the management can be done. So what I do is I dip into the indicative content. And here, when we are looking at task 3, how do they manage? We are looking at management would be looking at basically talking about things like recall, word of mouth. One is reviews. Because we are talking about e-marketing, how do you look at a company's brand or a reputation on online? They look at reviews, isn't it? Look at feedback.
Yeah.
So we could take an example of Trustpilot, for example. So we look at TrustAdvisor, which is for the website or things like that. Pick up one example and relate it, relate it to an organization collecting reviews.
Yeah, of course.
We also look at star rating. Sometimes you ask the customers for recommendations service that you provided, giving a star rating.
Yeah.
So that would be things that we look at in terms of say the measurement of presence online.
Right.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So this is what I think in the context is what you'll have to look at is here you need to talk about the say for example the measures which companies take to manage or evaluate their website web presence. Okay. It could be through rating, reviews, feedback, those kind of things. Right? Then the 4 tasks is basically assignment asking you to apply your learnings or what you've learned from the unit in terms of marketing. So here what you have to do is use market analysis techniques to market your own product or service. So what I would suggest in this case is the TTS Android product that you've taken, something that you've mentioned there, which is absolutely fine. So some sites of how many units are being shipped, what is the market size, this is okay. So if I put a comment here, this is okay. This is fine. And then when you talk about interpreting your findings in terms of market analysis. So what you've done is a SWOT analysis, which is absolutely fine. And in this case, what I would do is I would suggest to present it much nicely. What I would do is I would do a table.
Right.
Right. I do a quick table here, which will allow me to essentially just put my SWOT analysis. SWOT means strengths, just laid out a bit more clearly, I mean.
Right.
And then opportunities, and then threat. Okay. And then it is present your findings to the marketing team. If you're presenting findings to the marketing team, what you could do is what you've written is saying, and I've read it. So in terms of the findings, what I would suggest you to do is just neatly organize them into some bullet points, because you're presenting it essentially. Right? Presenting means you're making a PowerPoint presentation, or you're kind of providing a slide document, which is like a directioner, and that would kind of look at the presentation. These recommendations need to be made in a manner wherein they are insightful. That means they are backed up by data. Because what you've done is you've done the findings, then you analyze those findings, and after analyzing, you as a head of marketing or as a senior person in the marketing team is making some recommendations to how they can be put into practice.
Right.
Okay. So that is where I think I would suggest that you need to slightly look at this from the 3 different contexts. One is elaborate, use a company or a product or service which you can use throughout the assignment, because you have what I would suggest is you read the tasks through first. Once you've read the tasks, you know what is being asked for in which tasks, and then accordingly pick up an organization to match, so that you don't have to look at different examples for different tasks.
Yeah, that makes
sense. And in some
sense.
cases, you have to look at justification of command verbs, so that you know what the action verb actually asking you to do, whether it's described, explain, evaluate, analyze. These are the 5 or 6 words you not get to see in most of the assignments. So if you know the definition of these words, I think pretty much it'll make it easier for you to kind of, understand what is being asked for. And then towards the end, you can do a conclusion. If you've chosen an organization which has flowed through the whole unit in terms of the task, you can do a bit of a conclusion here as well. Just summarize it and then list the references which you've kind of looked at for doing the assignment.
Right.
Is that okay?
That's fine. That's fine.
Good stuff. So what I'll do is, if you have any questions on this, if you need anything which we have not covered, or you need any additional thoughts in terms of doing the assignment, drop me a quick email. I'll send you out loads of data. This particular is a unit which is a specialist unit at my end. I can go on for not hours, weeks, but years talking about it.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no worries. So if you need anything in terms of when you're struggling, just let me know. I have lots of handouts on this, which I can pretty much send across, which you can use, read the concepts, you look at the models, and then, kind of bring it into your own work as far as the unit is concerned.
Right.
You have this handout with you or not? This particular command verbs handout.
I'm sure I was given that.
Give me 1 second, but I will double check. I think it should be available in any case. If it's not there, what I'll do is I'll email it to you with the assignment brief, the feedback right now.
Yeah.
And then also we'll attach it here if it's not already there. So
Right.
there is something here which I think is more traditional, which ATHE has provided. This is quite an elaborate document. I will upload this there as well. So this is a bit concise one, because I think what we've done is we've looked at a lot of assignment briefs and compiled this. So it is a bit more of the commonly used word rather than, all the 160, 70 words.
Yeah.
Put that here. Let me see. So I think there are little bits of handouts that I've given you in terms of, for each of the LOs that we've covered. And there are some 2 detailed presentations on e-marketing, which I think we've, bought some books. So they've come along and they kind of explain some of these concepts quite well.
Right.
So you could refer to some of these presentations to get hold of the topic.
Right.
Okay? No worries.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining the session today. I'll email back to you in a couple of seconds just after our discussion, and I will catch up with you and we'll start up the next unit next week.